All right, today we're going to unpack a really fascinating story. It's about how a massive global food giant, a real household name, completely misread one of the world's biggest markets. I mean, this is a classic tale of culture versus corporation.
Okay, so think about it. Kellogg's was literally the company that taught the world to eat cereal for breakfast. They were masters at this stuff. So how on earth did they get it so spectacularly wrong in India? Let's really dig into this collision of culture and commerce.
So, let's set the scene. We're talking about the early 1990s. Kellogg's, they were the undisputed king of breakfast, right? They roll into India with just a ton of confidence, armed with this playbook that had worked everywhere else in the world.
And you have to understand their mindset. They didn't see themselves as just, cereal makers. No, they were habit changers. For them, the Indian market was just, it was just the next domino waiting to fall.
But, things didn't quite go to plan. Kellogg's almost immediately ran smack into a cultural wall. What they quickly found out was that in India, breakfast isn't just the first meal of the day. It is a deeply, deeply ingrained cultural ritual.
So what went wrong? What's really interesting here is how their whole strategy just stumbled. It wasn't just one single thing. You can actually break down their failure into 4 key cultural miscalculations. Let's walk through them one by one.
Okay, first up, the feeling of being full, right? Satiety. A light, crispy bowl of cereal, it just stood no chance against these hearty, traditional Indian breakfasts. We're talking about things like parathas or dosas, which are designed to keep you feeling satisfied for hours.
Second, you've got to understand that in India, variety is absolutely king. Think about this. You can go to a single restaurant that might offer 99 different kinds of dosas. So when Kellogg shows up with just one type of cereal, it just felt kind of boring, uninspired.
All right, here's another huge mismatch. Kellogg's plan, the way it works everywhere else, is that you eat the flakes with cold milk. Why? To keep them crispy. That's the whole point. But the reality in India, milk is almost always boiled and then consumed hot. So what happens when you pour hot milk on crispy cornflakes? You get this unappealing, soggy mush. Not exactly the breakfast of champions.
And this brings us to what might be the biggest misstep of all. Their marketing came across as, frankly, as an insult. By suggesting the traditional breakfasts weren't nutritious enough, they ended up offending the very people they needed on their side, the homemakers who took immense pride in the food they served their families.
So, okay, they're facing total failure. Kellogg's had no choice but to retreat and completely rethink their strategy. And you know where they found their inspiration? In a really unlikely place. Maggi noodles.
And see, here's the absolute genius of how Maggi cracked the market. It never ever tried to fight the main meal. Maggi didn't try to replace dinner. Instead, it positioned itself as the perfect, convenient snack in between meals.
So, Kellogg's had a light bulb moment. They adopted this fit-in strategy. Instead of trying to replace breakfast, they repositioned their cornflakes as a nutritional top-up. You get 85% from your traditional breakfast, and Kellogg's provides that extra 15% boost.
And you could see this pivot in their new ads. They started showing Kellogg's as a supplement, not a replacement. It was a huge climb down for them, but honestly, a really clever strategic move.
Okay, but this pivot was just the beginning. It actually kicked off this long kind of roller coaster journey of trying to figure out where they fit, a real search for a stable identity in the Indian market.
Look at this timeline. They really threw everything at the wall to see what would stick. They tried Indianizing the flavors, they brought out these small, budget-friendly packs, and at one point, they even tried marketing it as a weight loss food. It was just this constant search for the right angle.
So, after all that, what's the big takeaway here? What does this whole journey teach us about breaking into a new, culturally different market? Well, the core lesson is pretty clear, isn't it? Deeply rooted culture is like a giant rock in a river. You can't just smash through it. You have to learn to flow around it. Kellogg's learned the hard way that it is so much easier to adapt to a culture than it is to try and change it. And that really leaves us with one final big question to think about. All this constant repositioning, is it a sign of brilliant, agile, strategic thinking? Or is this really the story of a global brand that, even decades later, is still struggling to figure out who it is in the Indian market? Honestly, it's a debate that people in business schools are still having today.